In 1968, inside a laboratory at 3M, a chemist named Spencer Silva was trying to create something very specific. An extremely strong adhesive, something that could hold things together permanently. Instead, he created the exact opposite. The glue he had just developed barely stuck to anything. It could attach to a surface, but with the slightest pull, it came right off again. No damage, no residue, just a weak, almost useless grip. For most researchers, it would have been the end of the experiment, a failed formula, a dead end. But Silva couldn't quite let it go, because the adhesive had a strange property. It stuck lightly, but it could also be used again and again. At the time, nobody knew what to do with it. For years, the invention just sat there, a scientific mistake, waiting for someone to realize it might actually be something else. At first, the invention didn't look like a discovery at all. Inside the labs of 3M, the adhesive created by Spencer Silva had a reputation that scientists know too well. A failed experiment. It wasn't strong enough to replace existing glues. It couldn't permanently bond materials. In fact, the very thing that made adhesives useful, their strength, was exactly what this one lacked. Silva tried to convince colleagues that the formula was still interesting. The adhesive formed tiny microscopic spheres that allowed it to stick lightly to surfaces without truly bonding to them. Technically, it was fascinating. Practically, it seemed pointless. Year after year, Silva kept presenting the idea inside the company, hoping someone might see a use for it. But most people heard the same thing in their minds. A glue that barely sticks isn't very useful. Several years passed, and the strange adhesive still had no real purpose. Then, sometime in the early 1970s, another scientist at 3 meters kept running into a problem that seemed almost trivial, but incredibly annoying. Art Fry sang in his church choir every week, and during rehearsals, he used small paper bookmarks to mark the hymns in his book. The problem? They constantly slipped out. Every time the choir changed songs, the tiny pieces of paper would fall to the floor, disappear between pages, or end up in the wrong place. It was a small inconvenience, but it happened over and over again. One evening, while thinking about this simple frustration, Fry suddenly remembered something he had heard years earlier during a presentation inside the company. A colleague had once talked about a very unusual adhesive, a glue that didn't stick permanently and could be removed without leaving any trace. That night, the idea refused to leave Art Fry's mind. A bookmark that actually stayed in place, but could still be removed easily. Not on page, no glue stains, no paper slipping out in the middle of a song. The next day, back at the labs of 3M, Fry went looking for the one person who might still care about that strange adhesive, Spencer Silva. For years, Silva had been telling people about his unusual formula, a glue that stuck lightly but never permanently. Most colleagues had treated it like a scientific curiosity with no real-world application. But now, for the first time, someone had an idea for it. Fry proposed something simple. Apply the adhesive to the edge of a small piece of paper. If it worked, the paper could stick to a page and be removed again and again. At first, the idea sounded almost too simple. Inside the labs of 3M, Art Fry and Spencer Silva decided to try it. They took a small piece of paper and applied a thin strip of Silva's unusual adhesive along one edge. Then they pressed it onto a page. It stuck. Not permanently, not aggressively, just enough to stay in place. Fry peeled it off and placed it somewhere else. It stuck again, and again, and again. For the first time, the strange, useless glue actually made sense. What had looked like a failed invention was suddenly solving a problem that almost everyone had experienced at some point. And here is the funny part. If Fry hadn't been annoyed by a slipping bookmark in a choir book, this idea might never have happened. Which makes you wonder, how many discoveries start exactly like this, with a small, everyday frustration? Even after the first successful tests, Tedea didn't immediately convince everyone. Incide 3M. The concept sounded oddly small. A tiny piece of paper with a weak adhesive on the back didn't exactly feel like the next big product. Executives looked at it and saw a problem. It wasn't a new machine. It wasn't a revolutionary material. It was just paper that stuck lightly. Two things. Many inside the company simply didn't see a market for it. Why would people need removable sticky paper when normal notes already existed? But Art Fry believed the real test wasn't in a boardroom. It was in people's hands. So instead of trying to explain the idea again, he and his team decided to do something much simpler. They started quietly, giving the notes away. The moment people actually started using them, something unexpected happened. At first, employees inside 3 meters received small stacks of the strange little notes as free samples. No big marketing campaign, no explanation. Just try these. Within days, offices started changing. People placed them on documents, on phone messages, on reports waiting for signatures. Small reminders began appearing on desks, monitors, folders, everywhere. And then something even more telling happened. When the free samples ran out, employees began asking for more. Not just a few requests, entire departments wanted them. Suddenly, the product that had seemed pointless in meetings was becoming quietly indispensable in real life. And the company started realizing something important. They weren't just testing a piece of paper, they were watching a habit form. Once the internal tests proved people loved using them, 3 meters decided to try something bigger. Instead of explaining the product in advertisements, they repeated the same strategy that had worked inside the company. Let people experience it. In 1977, thousands of sample packs were distributed to offices in several cities. Secretaries, managers, and office workers suddenly found small stacks of these unusual sticky notes on their desks. At first, many didn't quite understand what they were for. Then they used one. A quick reminder on a document, a message stuck to a report, a note left on someone's desk, and just like before, the pattern repeated itself. Once people started using them, they didn't want to stop. By 1983, M finally made the decision to launch the product nationwide. It needed a name that matched its simplicity. They called it Post-it Notes. What followed was something few office products ever achieve. Instant adoption. Offices, schools, hospitals, and homes quickly found endless uses for them. Reminders on monitors, messages on refrigerators, ideas stuck to walls during brainstorming sessions. The small square of paper with a failed adhesive had quietly become a universal communication tool. And the strange part, the core technology hadn't changed. It was still the same weak glue that Spencer Silver had once considered a mistake. Today, it's almost impossible to imagine an office without them. Those small yellow squares ended up everywhere. Desks, classrooms, laboratories, refrigerators, laptops. A simple tool for reminders, ideas, messages, and quick communication. And it all started with something that looked completely useless. A weak adhesive created by accident by Spencer Silver. A small everyday frustration noticed by Art Fry. And the willingness, inside 3M, to test an idea that seemed almost too simple to matter. The results became Post-it Notes, one of the most recognizable office products ever created. Which means the title of this story is surprisingly literal. What looked like a failed experiment turned into a discovery that quietly changed how millions of people organized their daily lives.